I'm not going to make them kiss. So as you may have guessed by the fact of Deku and Bakugo, or Deku and Kacchan, or Midoriya and Bakugo, or Izuku and Katsuki, and Deku and Dynamite. This video is going to be a video about these two. More specifically about the evolution of their relationship so far throughout the course of the anime and the manga. Considering the major milestone that happened very recently in the manga, I kind of wanted to talk about how their relationship has shifted quite a bit over the course of the story. Over the course of the story, it's been, 322 chapters, and I don't know what episode number we'll be on by the time we get to it, but I can probably tell you this. When they do get to that in the anime, I will... The dog was staring at me. I will probably end up crying when they get to that point in the anime where Bakugo finally apologizes to Izuku. So I'm going to put these two over here in the background. Don't kill each other. So... yeah. I wish I had some My Hero posters, but unfortunately I have one, but it's not a wall scroll and it's very hard to move, and I don't really want to have to deal with that right now. So yeah, this video is going to be about Bakugo and Midoriya, the shifts and the evolutions in their relationships over the course of their life. When they were kids, they were best friends, Kacchan, of course, and then, Deku, because, Deku, the way that Izuku's name was written, looked like Deku, which, is, in the Japanese translates, can be a derivative, Deku Nobo, or someone who can't do anything. And, Bakugo, of course, Kacchan called Izuku that, still calls him that, or nerd, or damn nerd, or whatever you want to refer to that as. So this video is, of course, going to be about that. I'm going to go through the different stages that we've seen of the relationship and the shifts in it, and I am actually going to talk about some of the stuff that we see in the movies, particularly the Heroes Rising movie. I'm going to assume that when they have like that world mission movie, that we're going to see some other stuff that deals with like kind of the advancing of their relationship that we, well, it's a movie, so it's not necessarily canon, but it still shows a fair amount of like how things have shifted in their relationship. So let's start at the beginning. We don't exactly 100% know how Deku and Bakugo met, but it's probably, the prevailing theory is that like their moms were friends, and that, they met each other that way. And then, of course, they went to the same primary school because we see them in the same classes and everything when they're in, like a pre-K or whatever the Japanese equivalent of that is. And, Bakugo, of course, gets his quirk, and, he has the explosions and everything. And then, of course, Deku, Izuku just wants his quirk and wants a quirk so badly. He doesn't get one, of course. And even before then, Kacchan had started to refer to him as Deku when, they were learning how to read, and he saw the way that Deku's name was written. And, so he gives him that derogatory nickname. And, then when Deku, when it's explained that Deku's not going to have a quirk, he's quirkless, then, Bakugo just kind of, heaps that on there, you're useless, you're quirkless, you're defenseless, you're this, this thing that can't do anything. You're this little useless thing. And that that persists for, their whole childhood. And, we see how Izuku still just like adores Bakugo. Still just adores, Kacchan's so amazing and everything. And it probably doesn't help that from like everyone around him, from like their teachers and the other students, that Bakugo is just like heaps of praise are mounted on top of Bakugo, and Deku is just like pushed to the side. Even though Deku is obviously quite smart, he's still, pushed to the side of, he's quirkless, he'll never do anything. Let's focus on the kid over here with the very, useful explosion quirk that can make, can produce, for all intents and purposes, nitroglycerin sweat and then make it explode. So, we see that, but we also see that, Bakugo has already started to, develop into this, tough kid, and Izuku is kind of this, yeah, he is scared, and he is scared of Bakugo, but we also see, in the flashback that we get at the beginning of the series where we see the two of them as kids, we also see Izuku being willing to stand up to Bakugo. Even when they're little kids, it's like, don't pick on him just because his quirk's not as good as yours. That's not a good thing to do. That's not something a hero would do. And of course, we also throw in that mix, the both of them both idolize All Might. He's just, this amazing symbol in their lives and everything, is he's the number one hero and everything. And, so the two of them have that. And, they go to the same elementary school the whole time. Then, of course, they go to the same middle school. And we also have the moment when they're kids where, they're off exploring in the woods. And this seems to be a major turning point in their relationship. And I've seen people do like, fanfics or what if scenarios where it's like, well, what if this had shifted? And what happens is, of course, Bakugo and, Deku and these other kids, from their, their little class or whatever, are roaming through the woods, and Bakugo falls off this log and falls into the little river below. He's not hurt or anything, but, Deku is the one that runs down and is, are you okay and everything, holding out his hand to him and everything. And Bakugo is just like, I'm sure as a little kid, he's like, we know this in his head that, he thinks that Deku is looking down on him, that he's, doesn't see, Kacchan as, he sees him as less than him, but of course in Izuku's mind, that's not the way that he's thinking. He's just like, oh, my friend fell off of a log. I just want to make sure that he's okay, but of course Bakugo just, snaps at him and goes like, of course I'm fine. Why wouldn't I be fine, you useless, defenseless little Deku nerd, leave me alone type of a thing. And, throughout the course of their elementary and middle school years, all Bakugo seems to do is torment Deku. And we don't 100% know where their parents fall on this. I'm sure Inko has become a bit more, became aware to a degree of what was going on. And I can already probably tell you that Bakugo's parents don't necessarily always put up with this attitude, given the way that we've seen Mitsuki and him interact, but it's also the whole thing of him and his mother are very similar. Yet we go through the whole thought of like, Inko and Mitsuki had been friends. So if they had been friends, and Inko's personality is quite similar to Izuku's, she can very much stand up for herself when she needs to, and she's not afraid to tell someone what she thinks, because she scolds All Might for all intents and purposes. But so we kind of see that a similar relationship, but Mitsuki, probably her and Inko probably get along fine, particularly if we go by the theory that they were friends to begin with, and then that's why the two boys knew each other, beyond the whole school scenario. But one of the other things that we see is, as they go through middle school, we also see, Izuku is, of course, started to do his, his hero notebooks and everything, of, hero notes for the future and everything. And, Bakugo then is just like, when they're in middle school, their last year of middle school, he just, at one point, we have the infamous moment, of course, where he, blows up Izuku's, text, his notebook, and then, just, scolds Izuku anytime Izuku mentions wanting to go to UA. And I've seen a lot of people take this as, for the ones that ship them together. Point of honesty, I do kind of ship them together. I don't see a problem with that, but I'm also okay with, like, Izuku and, Uraraka. I'm fine with them as well. There's a few ships that I have. But, the people take that as, and, like, this can also just be applied to, like, whatever part of Kacchan is still there. There's like, well, Izuku was my friend and he's quirkless and I don't want him to get hurt. So if I can scare him away from wanting to be a hero, then he won't get hurt because he won't become a hero. He won't try to become a hero and end up getting hurt in the process. And I don't have to see my friend either get extremely injured or, well, former friend at this point in time. Bakugo doesn't consider them friends anymore. But, I don't have to see him get hurt. I don't have to watch him do that. And unfortunately, I think that twists inside of Bakugo's head. And later on, in chapter 322, we got the whole explanation from Bakugo, and I will be going over that. That will be gone over quite a bit when I get to it, but that's at the end. That's toward the end of the video. But we've got other things to work through first. So we have it, of course, that when they're in middle school, of course, both boys want to apply to UA and everything. And Bakugo, he blows up Izuku's textbook, and he keeps, threatening Izuku with more and more explosions. And then he took Izuku's textbook and, threw it out the window. It dropped it in a little water feature thing that they had in their school. And then, of course, he tells Izuku to take a swan dive off the roof and hope that in the next life he gets a quirk. And a lot of people focus on that line when it comes to stuff about the two of them, about their relationship. I think, and in a lot of stuff, in fanfics, and of course what we just saw in the big apology that comes out at the end of 322, a lot of people focus on somehow in whatever form of a fanfic there is, where it's like either they ship them together or where they become friends, and like that friendly rivals type thing that they have. Oh, so don't come in. Okay, come on. Come on. You have dog. Come on. We have dog. Hi. Come on. You wanna come up? Come on up. It's like, but there's things on the bed, Mommy. You can get up on the bed. Come on. Up. Up. He's like, no, I will lay on the floor, maybe. I will circle. Come on. Up. Up. He's like, but there's stuff there. I have to go back to the video. Are you going to get on the bed or not? Oh, come on. You're fine. Come on. Up. Up. Or lay down. That's fine, too. Okay. He laid down. I guess we might do dog check-ins throughout the video. We'll see how that goes. You get a dog treat. So, a lot of people go off the whole, swan dive off the roof, regardless of what their relationship evolves into, whether it is romantic or whether it is friendship. In fanfics, people very much try to highlight when Bakugo apologizes to Izuku for that. Now, there are some fanfics where, like, they were friends for the whole time, and, like, Bakugo never said that to him, and where, like, they were always encouraging of each other, even if Deku was quirkless. There's so many different takes on the relationships in regards to that, but from what we see, and as I said, I'm trying to stick with just what we see in the manga and in the anime. But, Bakugo tells him to do that, and of course, Izuku won't, because, he's not going to put his mom through that sort of a thing, and he kind of knows that Bakugo doesn't really mean it, or at the very least, he hopes Bakugo doesn't mean it. And then, of course, that day on their way home from school, Izuku got attacked by the sludge villain, and then he met All Might, and then he has this whole conversation with All Might about, being a hero and being quirkless, and finding out that All Might is, getting weaker and everything. And then Bakugo gets attacked by the sludge villain as well. And we have the moment where, Izuku, his body moves without even thinking, and he runs toward the sludge villain, and he tries to distract it with his backpack, and he's like trying to dig Bakugo out of the sludge villain and everything, and try to help Bakugo escape and everything. And of course, Bakugo is just like shouting at him, stop that damn nerd, stop, what are you doing, don't do this, blah, 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 blah. And, Izuku's answer is just like, I can't stand back and watch my friend die, is of course where that is, what happens. And, Izuku and Bakugo, they're rescued by All Might and everything. And, we have this moment where we think maybe Bakugo is going to, like, thank Izuku for saving him. But he doesn't. He's just like, damn nerd, I don't, why did you do that? It's, it wasn't you, you didn't do anything. And, you're just quirkless and a failure and everything. Out of his own pride of wanting to protect his own pride of, like, I didn't need a nerd like you to try to get me out of that sludge villain attack. I would have been fine one way or the other. And And then we cut ahead because, like throughout the course of the next, 10 whatever months or whatever, Izuku is being trained by All Might and everything. And he's building up not only his physical stance, but also his confidence as well to a degree. But he's still very scared of Bakugo because, at the entrance exams, Bakugo is just like, what are you even doing here? This isn't even a place you need to be. Just leave me alone and don't even try to mess with any of my scores or whatever. And later on, when we get to the battle training, I mean, yeah, Bakugo is extremely angry, and he finds out that, Deku made it into that damn Deku made it into UA as well. This has to be some type of a fluke or something, or like he lied to me or something. This can't be real. And then of course they're both in class 1A. And Bakugo on that first day when they're doing the the quirk, darn it, what are they called? The quirk, aptitude test type of a thing, or so that Izawa puts them through. And he watches as Izuku, throws the ball and everything. And, he breaks his finger and he almost attacks Izuku because he's like, this, you've been lying to me for the past however many years. You do have a quirk, and why would you lie to me? And blah, 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 blah. And he gets so angry about it. And, it always stops him and makes him calm down. Kind of just more like forces him to calm down. And then later on, when they do the battle training, when All Might's watching over them while they're doing the battle training, Bakugo, just his whole focus is on getting to Izuku and, just pulverizing Izuku to make it either that Izuku cannot continue as being, part of the hero course, prove that he's, been, a fraud the entire time, or this is when he gets his chance to finally confront Izuku about it, because, of course, like a normal human being, Bakugo couldn't simply just, like, walk up to Izuku at some point, like at the end of their first day, after they do, the, quirk assessment exams, that he couldn't have just been like a normal human being and walked up to Izuku and said, okay, I've known you our entire lives. I know that you have never had a quirk, so why do you have one now? And of course, there's, the kind of the BS answer that Izuku has come up with in the past in regards to, like, oh, I had the quirk my entire life, but because of the fact that I was, my body couldn't handle the quirk, it never really I didn't really ever get to use it, so I had to say that I was quirkless. And now that I've trained up more, my body can handle the quirk more. Which, by a technicality in regards to the equivalency of using, one for all, is not a lie. It's just he hasn't had it his entire life. And, during the battle training, of course, Bakugo is just bewildered by, Izuku's able to read his moves, and he despises that, and they keep shouting at each other. And, Izuku is just like, I'm not going to stand down. I'm not going to give up. And he's, standing his ground against Bakugo. And Bakugo is just like bewildered by this the entire time. And of course, when Izuku keeps getting, takes the hits from, Bakugo's explosions and is able to dodge them. And, and of course, when Bakugo loses the match, of course, to Izuku because, Uraraka was able to get past, Ida and get to the bomb, Izuku's team won. And him and Bakugo got a lot of damage taken from them, and he did kind of get to see, because of that final clash they had, he did kind of get to see what Izuku could do. And of course, we have it that, they talk after that, kind of talk / Bakugo shouting and Izuku trying to kind of explain to him that, it's like, yes, I have this quirk, and I kind of borrowed it from someone, and I will make it my own and everything. And Bakugo is just like, what do you mean you borrowed it from someone? How do you borrow a quirk? And, it's like, he's not, he doesn't quite get that. But, and then, of course, they have, throughout the course of the rest of the first part of the year, of course, they have to do a lot of this other training and, all this other stuff that they do. Of course, we have the sports festival, where, they don't end up going up against each other in the sports festival, but of course Bakugo gets extremely angry at Shoto because, Shoto used his fire quirk against Izuku but wouldn't use it against Bakugo. So Bakugo doesn't feel like he legitimately won, the first place in the first years, and he does put a lot of that blame on Izuku. Um, and then there's other moments where, when they come back from their internships the first time, that, when they do like the race through the obstacle course kind of race or so that they do, get the mannequin and bring it back, and, safety race, whatever it is. And, Bakugo watches as Izuku's like, jumping through, everything, jumping around in the city area. And he notices that Izuku is like implementing, some of the same, movements and everything that Bakugo does with his explosions. And Bakugo gets extremely angry about that because it's just like, you're just copying me and everything. And he gets very, very angry at Izuku for that. And then, of course, we have the end of semester exams, where, of course, Bakugo and Izuku are kind of forced to have to work together to have to fight All Might, which that's a fun battle to watch. And, they have to work through that. And, they do have to work together, but they have to, they keep butting heads throughout the course of it. And, they are able to, pass the exam and everything because they did kind of work together, because it's like Izuku wasn't willing to just like escape and then, let Bakugo be, kind of captured, quote unquote, by All Might. But he does get Bakugo out of there, and they are able to, of course, pass the exam. And they're still not on friendly terms by any measure of the imagination. And one of the other moments that we get, and this isn't necessarily like specifically just a Bakugo Izuku moment, it is when they're on the bus on their way to the USJ, and like Izuku's watching as like everybody's like talking about their quirks and everything, and Bakugo just gets angry because like Izuku is so used to being the one who gets picked on all the time, and for being quirkless, and yet he's getting complimented on his quirk. And Bakugo is just kind of annoyed about the fact of like, where are you guys talking about Izuku? He's just a useless nerd. And like the others are just like, well, he's got a good quirk, and I don't know what you're talking about. And like, they're kind of like backsassing Bakugo. And Izuku is just put in this like weird Twilight Zone moment, I'm sure, where he's just like, Bakugo's not automatically the one that's in charge of everything. Oh my god. He's like, Bakugo like ruled their class probably in their middle school and probably in their elementary school as well, because everyone wanted to be Bakugo's friend because he had such this cool quirk and everything, and that he was going to be this strong person later on down the line. But, now it's just like, you're in a class full of students who have proven that they can continue to learn to be heroes just like you can, Bakugo. And, Izuku's here too. And, the whole point of the classes is that, yeah, there's going to be some that are at the top of the class and different abilities and everything, but you also have to be able to work together. You can't have this huge animosity between each other. And, Bakugo and, Izuku, Bakugo's just put in this position where he's like, why is everybody not automatically listening to me? And that's just kind of funny. And, but then later on, after the battle training, or the final exam, end of semester exam arc, then of course they have it where they all go to the training camp for, where the wild pussycats are. And they go to the training camp, and of course, things are kind of going okay in the beginning. And then, that's when the Vanguard Action Squad or whatever, shows up. And Izuku, as soon as he finds out that they're after Kacchan, he's got Kota, and he's got to get Kota to a safe place. Kota to a safe place. And then he tells, Mandalay, because she has a telepathy quirk, or telepathic. Telepathy is moving things. Telepathic is where you can talk to other people in your head. I always get those two mixed up. That and telekinetic. So, and he tells her, it's like, okay, you have to tell them that, they're after Kacchan, that the bad guys are after Kacchan, and that we need to protect Kacchan. And then, of course, he goes off and he finds, Bakugo and Shoto and, Tokoyami and Shoji, and, they find them, and, they're able to all work together, and they're trying to protect Bakugo. And, of course, you know, when Bakugo does get kidnapped, when he's, you know, turned into the marble by Mr. Compress, and they're, you know, the others are all running after them and everything and trying to save them. Um, you know, there's a moment where, you know, Bakugo gets turned back into his, you know, where he's, you know, released from the marble, and then, you know, we see, you know, I think it's Dabi's hand that, you know, grabs him from behind his neck and is, you know, pulling him into the portal. And of course, we have it where he goes, Deku, don't, or don't Deku, or whatever the case is, where it's basically, you know, it's like, don't, you know, it's either him going, you know, don't try to come after me, or don't keep following me right now, or, you know, whatever the case is. And of course, Izuku then he's, you know, he's already broken both of his arms at this point in time. And he just, you know, used the last of his effort trying to get to Bakugo, and he missed. You know, and he's, you know, Izuku is kind of, you know, broken a little bit at that point in time, because it's like he couldn't save the person that was like his oldest friend. He's like, he's blaming himself for that. And then, you know, we cut to, you know, they're at the hospital when he wakes up, and then he finds out from Kirishima that that he's going to try to go after Bakugo and save him. And, you know, him and Ida and Shoto and Momo, of course, all work together. You know, and Izuku, you know, they all work together, and they go and they find the, you know, League of Villains hideout and everything via the tracker that Momo used. And they get to, well, they don't find the hideout. They find where the Nomu warehouse basically is, which is one of them. And then, of course, during the whole battle between, you know, All Might and All For One, you know, they're the ones that, you know, jump through and, you know, they save Bakugo. And, of course, Izuku kind of has the moment where he's just like, Kirishima has to be the one to hold his hand out to Bakugo. To Kacchan, and Kirishima is just like, but you and him are like old, you know, have been friends for so much longer and everything. And Izuku's main answer is, the last time, Izuku is probably thinking in his head, the last time I held my hand out to Bakugo in a show of friendship when we were kids, he slapped it away. And he's not going to accept that from me this time around either, because it looks like me taking pity on him. And like, this is all just running through Izuku's head. And he tells Kirishima, he's like, you're the one that's closest to him in class. You're the one that has to be the one to hold your hand out to him. And of course that works, and they, you know, they save Bakugo. And then of course we have it where Izuku and Bakugo are both watching as All Might is fighting, and as his, you know, true form is revealed. And, you know, Bakugo and Izuku are just, you know, cheering on to, you know, for All Might to win and everything. And of course he does beat All For One, but he's, you know, kind of has to retire after that, which of course, as I've mentioned in previous videos, Bakugo takes upon himself as like, that's kind of my fault that that happens. And then of course we have, you know, that they're all moving into the dorms after that and everything. And, you know, we don't get too much interaction between Izuku and Bakugo during this time frame. It's more after they finish up the provisional license exam, of course, that we get a little more interaction with them. And they, you know, Izuku passes, of course. Bakugo doesn't. He's still kind of in that headspace of, I'm the reason that All Might can't be a hero anymore. I'm the reason that All Might, you know, can't, you know, continue to be, you know, can't continue to fight and everything. And, you know, he takes that upon himself, and what he does is he, you know, it's debated whether or not he, like, fails the provisional license exam on purpose, or if it's just he's not putting as much effort into it as he should. And then, of course, that night is when we have the, you know, Deku versus Kacchan Part 2, where, you know, they go into Ground Beta, and where the two of them are just, you know, jumping all over and fighting each other. And, well, Izuku is trying to actively not fight Bakugo, but then, of course, you know, he does fight back. And the two of them, you know, are, you know, dealing with all of that and everything, and like All Might shows up, and then of course we have it that Bakugo explains to All Might and Izuku that he kind of figured out that Izuku got his quirk from All Might. And I forgot to go over this moment when I was doing the two All Might videos that I did. I forgot to go over the moment where All Might, after he defeats, you know, One For All, and he does his victory pose, and then he points to the camera, and, you know, it's, you know, him going, you know, you're next. or it's your turn, or whatever the translation of it is. And the villain, the media takes that as, it's like him pointing at all these other villains that are out there and like issuing a challenge to them of, you're next. Someone's going to come after you next. Whereas Bakugo realizes that it's All Might pointing at Izuku and telling Izuku that it's his turn, that he's the one that has to now carry this, carry Hero Society into the future. And Bakugo has kind of figured the fact, it's like Izuku mentioned that, he borrowed a quirk from someone. So who did he borrow the quirk from? And, all this other stuff. And Bakugo tells, All Might and Izuku that, I kind of figured out what was going on between the two of you. And, and then of course he gets the whole explanation of, all for one and one for all, and that Izuku now has this quirk and everything, and like that whole explanation that he gets. And he agrees to keep the secret and such, which I kind of think he would have anyway, because I don't think Bakugo is the type of person that's, or at the very least the Bakugo that we see for the most part in the manga and the anime, fanfics will do what they will, but he doesn't seem like the type that's just going to go and blab the entire world about why Izuku now has a quirk. And that doesn't strike me as something that Bakugo would do. Should we do a dog check-in? Hi. Hi. You're on camera. He's like, yeah, okay. I put my head back down, mommy. And then, of course, we have it where they get, kind of reprimanded by Aizawa, of course. And then, of course, they're both put on, house arrest, dorm arrest for, Izuku, I think, for 2 days and Bakugo for 3 days, where they have to clean the, clean dorms and everything. And, they're the ones that have to do that and everything. And we do have the moment where, Bakugo is just kind of like, shouting at Izuku for, reasons. And then, of course, we have it where I think this happens where it's like they're talking while they're cleaning, and Bakugo's like, your new shoot style, you need to work on it some more, and, you need to do this and do that and everything. And Izuku, Bakugo agrees to kind of help train Izuku some more. And then, of course, we don't really get too much other interaction where we get specific interactions between the two of them during this time frame because, of course, Bakugo is, of course, doing his, remedial license exam, training and everything with Shoto and with, the others and everything that are, off doing that and everything. And Izuku is, of course, doing his internship with Sir Night-Eye and dealing with the, Hasaikai and everything. So we have, they're kind of, separated at this point in time. But it's, kind of, I guess, hinted at that, they're still doing, like, training occasionally. But not too much. But via that fight that they had, at Ground Beta again, their relationship has shifted to becoming more, as All Might, says, more proper, friendly rivalry. They still have a long way to go before they're able to, before Bakugo apologizes and before they're able to fully be friends again. They still have a long way to go before that, but it's a good start, which is very nice. And then, we also have this whole moment where, then, during this time frame is, of course, Izuku goes off into this, and of course they have, like, then they have, the cultural festival and all everything, and, Izuku and Bakugo aren't really a huge, big, they're not really, together during that time frame very much, because, Izuku's with the dance troupe, and then, like, with the effects part, and then, Bakugo's off, doing the drums and everything for the band. And then later on, then, of course, we do have it that Bakugo does get his, him and Shoto get their provisional licenses and everything. And Bakugo and All Might and Izuku have started to do all of this extra training and talking and all this other stuff in regards to, One for All. And, so Bakugo is a big part of that. And, of course, we see them training and everything with Black Whip later on. And you know, which is, you know, it's kind of interesting. Like in the manga, we've seen a little bit more into that of like them training with Black Whip and Bakugo being a part of that. And, you know, at the beginning, you know, when they're kids, they're, you know, Deku and Kacchan. And then later on, you know, by the time they're in middle school, you know, Izuku still calls him Kacchan all the time. But he's still, you know, Deku. And, but it's this more, you know, you know, the Deku is meant as like, you know, a slur, this, you know, you know, this derogatory thing. And Kacchan is still meant as, you know, this, you know, endearing thing. And then later on, you know, it's kind of shifted a little bit to at this point in time, I would say, um, it's more like, you know, you know, Midoriya and Bakugo, like they're a little bit more even keel at this point in time in regards to their relationship, in regards to kind of their respect for each other. And then, you know, then we have where we have the Heroes Rising movie. We don't really get a whole lot of interaction between the two of them during the Two Heroes movie. That's more, I would say, focused on like Izuku and Melissa and like Izuku and All Might. Bakugo's there, but he's not like super interacts with Izuku in that movie. But in Heroes Rising has a very good introspective on kind of where their relationship is at this point in time. And we see this in the fact that, you know, Bakugo is still telling Izuku, you know, oh, you know, you need to make your quirk your own. You need to make all for one yours, or, you know, one for all your quirk and everything. And, you know, you can't keep, you know, relying on, you know, the fact that All Might had it and you have to make it your own quirk as opposed to referring to it as All Might's quirk. And, you know, we also have the, you know, them having to interact with the two small kids who are adorable. The two kids are adorable. I'm sorry, they are cute. But we, of course, we have like their relationship showing each other, you know, how they can interact with each other. And what ends up happening is, of course, you know, the island is, of course, attacked by Nine and Slice and Chimera and Mummy, I think was his name. You know, the island's attacked by them, and Izuku and Bakugo, you know, they have to, you know, and the whole class have to work on trying to protect the island and protect the kids and protect the civilians, of course. And one of the things I am going to go over in a different video is like these different aspects of being a hero, and part of that is like the rescue aid, the recovery aid stuff. That are like the first aid type stuff, the first responder type stuff that I am going to go over in like a different video in regards to like different aspects of being a hero. But we see that quite a bit in this movie, which I like that the movie kind of highlights that. But that'll be in a different video. But we have it that, of course, you know, Nine shows up and he's trying to get the little boy's quirk, Maho's quirk, Maharo's quirk. And Izuku and Bakugo are doing their damnedest to try to stop him, to try to stop Nine from being able to get the quirk. And they're, you know, they're stopping it, you know, fighting against him and pushing him away from the kids and trying to get the kids to run and, you know, blasting Nine with as many of their attacks as they can, but he keeps blocking them with his different quirks, of course, that he's stolen. And then, of course, at one point, they just literally grab onto his legs and are trying to just like stop him from being able to move. And it's both of them, which I kind of put this as Bakugo and Izuku as, you know, Izuku is win people to, you know, win people, you know, save people to win. And then Bakugo is win to save people. It's kind of like this, you know, they always put them as like the, you know, was it the dynamic duo, or no, that's Batman and Robin. You know, they're like, you know, the twin stars or the, you know, whatever the variation, the Wonder Duo. That's what they are called sometimes, the Wonder Duo. And, you know, we get that moment and it's them both, you know, Izuku is, you know, kind of supposedly going to be like the future, you know, symbol of peace. And Bakugo is going to be like the future symbol of victory type of a thing. It's kind of, you know, what a lot of people have kind of, you know, equated that to. And like, they're just like, they're both willing to just do whatever they can to try to protect the two kids. And of course, they do enough damage to Nine and everything that he, you know, goes off. And, you know, then of course they get healed by Maharo. And, you know, then the next day they end up having to fight against Nine again. and it's not just them, it's of course the whole class dealing with Chimera and Slice and everything, and they get them divided up, and they each have their own battles with them. But it's of course Izuku and Bakugo specifically fighting against Nine. And there's a lot of close calls that happen throughout the course of the battle. And at one point, the main part of the battle that I wanted to point out is, of course, and a lot of people probably know where I'm going with this, is where Izuku is thinking, okay, I need to be able, my punches on their own are not enough to be able to defeat Nine. And I don't have enough power on my own to be able to get through his defenses. If Bakugo and I both have the quirk at the same time, both have One for All at the same time, then if we both attack at the same time, we should be able to get past Nine's defenses. Admittedly, not a bad plan. I know it's technically non-canon because the movies are technically not canon and everything, but we do get this where I kind of wish that they were kind of canon, but I understand like it would be kind of hard to like, oh, well, this shows even more of what's going on with the quirk than what we were ready to show in the manga, and blah 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 blah. But what I like is, of course, what we see happens is, of course, Izuku and Bakugo, I don't know if they actually say anything to each other because they're both like in the vice grips of like these two Hydra heads that Nine can summon, which in all honesty, out of all of the quirks that Nine demonstrates, I wouldn't mind that one, the Hydra one. And Izuku and Bakugo are both there, and Izuku is bleeding and so is Bakugo, and of course the transfer has to be consciously done by the person who's transferring the quirk, and it has to be ingested or put into the bloodstream or the metabolism or so of the person that they're transferring it to. And of course they're able to their quirk, Izuku is able to transfer the quirk to Bakugo, and like I don't remember if this is like something where it's like they're just kind of saying it with their eyes, or if they do actually physically say it with each other. I don't remember exactly the variation that they use in the scene, but it's like Bakugo is like, but if you transfer it to me, you'll be quirkless again. And Izuku's like, I don't care, because if we don't stop him, it's not going to matter what we do. It's not going to matter whether or not I'm still quirkless or whether I have this with as strong as he is. And if all my if I had to pass it on to anyone, I would want to pass it on to you. And of course, they transfer the quirk, and they both, and I think it's also kind of, since I do think they kind of hint that One for All is kind of a sentient quirk to a degree. Given all the vestiges that are inside of it, that would make sense if it is to a degree a sentient quirk in and of itself. That I think it kind of they play this up a little bit, of course, in the in the movie, that Izuku and Bakugo's quirks, Bakugo's explosions is like heightened even more in regards to his power, plus his physical power with all of that running through him. And the two of them, of course, just have like the all this power, the 100% of One for All flowing through both of them at the same time. And they do the Detroit Smash, and the 100% Detroit Smash and the Howitzer Impact both at the same time. Just like all of this, it's like, it's a beautiful scene to watch. It's wonderfully animated and everything. It's so great. And like the two of them work together, and they're able to defeat Nine, of course. And he's defeated and everything. And then of course we have like the they're kind of depicted as the Wonder Duo, and the twin stars and everything. And it's just like fun things that they do with it. And it's like, yeah, down the line, and because if you're a Todoroki in there, you throw Shotaro in there, the big three of Class 1A type of thing, the future big three, as they're referred to as, for like because Mirio and Mirio and Amajiki and Nejire are, of course, the current big three at UA, and of course it's kind of hinted that like Izuku and Katsuki and Shoto will be the future big three down the line. We don't know anything about class, like, the second years at the moment. We'll see where they fall, I guess. We'll probably get to see some of them later on down the line. But what ends up happening is, of course, they're able to defeat Nine, and they end up kind of having, it's they show this with All Might because the quirk does shift back out of Bakugo and back into Izuku, and they have to do that, of course, because at the end of the movie it can't be that, oh, Bakugo now has one for all and everything, and Izuku doesn't anymore. They both have it. They can't do that, so he has to go back to him. And I think they kind of put that as a little bit of like the sentient quirk kind of thing, that it can shift back to Izuku because Izuku is the one not necessarily destined to have it, but he is the one that is best fit to have this quirk. And so we have that, and like Bakugo doesn't even remember having all for one for all for a while. He doesn't even remember that. He wakes up and his arms are broken, and he's like, "Why are my arms broken?" And and he gets healed and everything. And then later on, we of course have it that they kind of the rest of the class stays, of course, and they fix up the island and blah 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 blah. And then of course we cut back to the actual series, and of course we have they're Izuku training with Black Whip and everything, more with Bakugo helping, and he has to catch a Kacchan, where it's like, I guess Kacchan is like jumping around the gym or whatever with his quirk, and Izuku has to keep using his Black Whip and having it come out and try to catch him. And of course we see some of their relationship in regards to like when they're them and Shoto are all three interning at the Endeavor Agency. And that kind of also adds into when they're training more and more with their quirks, and even being around each other, as much as Bakugo just like shouts at Izuku all the time, which is just kind of funny. But like we do see these progressions in their relationship, which is very nice to see. And Shoto's kind of brought in there a little bit at times too. But then of course this is where we then have the Paranormal Liberation War arc, where they have to fight against the League of Villains and the Metal Liberation Army that have now combined forces. And it's it's like this huge all the heroes and everything are there fighting, and they're working their way through the rest of these other working their way through the villains and the Nomus and the Liberation Army and all this stuff. And of course at one point Izuku watches when Bakugo gets stabbed through the gut by Shigaraki's quirk, and it's just so many of the students get hurt, and the heroes get hurt, and Izuku watches this and he just keeps getting back up again, and Bakugo sees this, and of course he has the quote that he says like you can't do this on your own, or you shouldn't be doing this on your own. And they just it's Izuku and Bakugo, and Shoto is there as well. Shoto's off dealing with Dabi with Endeavor at this point in time, but it's Izuku and Bakugo working together to fight against Tomura. And later on it's of course they do, Tomura and a bunch of the other League escape and everything, of course. And Shoto, Izuku kind of goes into a coma, of course, and Bakugo probably was in a coma, but then he woke up, and he's just like, we see him just trying so hard to try to get to where Izuku is, because I think it's also him trying to reassure himself that Izuku isn't dead, because we see him trying to make his way through the hospital to try to get to where Izuku is, and like a bunch of the students keep like gathering him up, like they keep, I think like Kirishima and Sero have to like wrap him up in tape, and they're trying to drag him away from like where Izuku is, because Izuku's still in the coma and everything. And of course when Izuku wakes up from the coma, he's like, is Kacchan and everyone okay? And of course, because the last thing that he saw, Bakugo had been rather very badly hurt in that time frame, of course. And this is kind of where we get that shift again, because Bakugo has now declared his hero name of Great Explosion Murder God. Dynamite. Yeah. Seriously, dude. I'm okay with the dynamite part. I'm just like the Great Explosion Murder God. Okay, we could have gone with Great Explosion. That's fine. God's okay. It's the murder that I have a problem with, but okay, sure. And that's where they shift, and they're now like, is Deku, because Deku of course has taken that nickname that Bakugo gave him so many years ago when they were kids, and he is now changing that into, the can-do hero, the useful hero or whatever it is, that he can do this, and it's changed that into Deku, the hero Deku. And then Bakugo has now shifted into, great explosion, murder, god, dynamite. He'll just henceforthly refer to as Explodey. No, as dynamite. Well, depends on the context. And of course, we have this, that's where they're kind of, they're both, heroes at this point in time. Well, I mean, they're heroes in training still, but they're provisional licenses and everything. But they're, they're both like on this even keel again. They're both full, heroes. And then, of course, Izuku writes the letters to the class, and then he goes off on his own with, All Might and, Endeavor and Hawks and Best Jeanist. And then, of course, the rest of the class, including Bakugo, spends the next several months being extremely worried about Izuku, because it's just like, as Bakugo is just like, I know that I knew the nerd was going to do something stupid like this. I knew that he was going to cause all these problems and everything and go off and try to do what All Might did and try to do it all on his own, take the world on his shoulders. And, so we have that. And, him and the rest of the class, they formulate this whole plan, and they go talk to Nezu. And, of course, we have the moment where, like, Izuku is trying to deal with Dictator. And then Bakugo is, of course, the one that shows up. Katsuki shows up, and he has, uses his AP shot, and he's able to defeat Dictator. And then the class shows up. And then, of course, we have the whole fun moment of the class, trying to pin Izuku and wear him down and, just trap him or whatever the case may be, trying to get him to stop. And, standing up against him and everything. And, they're just, pinning him and trying just all this stuff that they're trying to do to get them to get Izuku to just stop. Just freeze and stop and stay there and just, fall asleep or something, because you need a bath and a shower and like 3 more baths and showers and a haircut and food and sleep and new clothes. And we need to get you back to the school because you just need to freaking rest. And do proper self-care, because that's important too. And, we have like that whole moment there and everything. And, Bakugo kind of gets a little bit of a moment where it's like, when he's the one that's, sending Ida off to, send Ida even further to go after Izuku and everything. And he's like, yeah, I'd like to be the one to try to get to you, but Ida is the one who is the best equipped to be able to handle high speed. And so he's the one that has to go after you. And then, of course, we have the whole class around Izuku after Ida has grabbed Izuku by the hand and brought him down, with Kirishima catching them. And then, of course, we have the moment in the rain, because, of course, we have to have it in the rain for dramatic effect, where Bakugo finally apologizes to Izuku. So 322 chapters, however many episodes by the time we get to it. Technically 3 movies by that point in time as well. However many months in the school year it's been. Plus, all the, the 10, 12, whatever years ahead of that when they were all growing up and everything, that, finally, after so long, Bakugo finally apologizes to him. And I actually kind of broke this down. And, like, I do the end quotes and everything on the videos. And, like, the end quote is basically just the apology. Because we have, this Bakugo finally telling Izuku that he's sorry, which is, it's the milestone moment. And I am aware of the fact that there are like probably dozens, if not hundreds of other YouTubers that probably are saying these same things around the same time frame that this video is going to come out, because this was a very big chapter in regards to the series. So we have it where, and of course we go through the transitions between, like, them as kids and them in middle school and them in high school and them in their hero uniforms and everything, as like they shift through the transitions of their lives. Dog wants attention. Can I help you? Or are you a cat or puppy right now? I am trying to get to a very serious moment and you are not helping. He's like, it's not my job to help you. It's my job to sit here and be cute. What's your point, Mom? But, we see the transitions through their lives and everything. And, it starts off with Bakugo. And, like, he's, it's like, he's not shouting this at Izuku. He's, and the rest of the class is all around them, so they can hear exactly what Bakugo is going to say. Whether or not he told the class ahead of time that he was going to do this is left up for debate. I mean, like, they can probably tell that there is this, jagged and chipped relationship between the two of them, that, they're kind of, like the whole, the jagged edges, and, like the jagged edges, don't try to slice off the jagged edges. Just trying to, sand them away gently so that way things can fit together. And they finally, the class has gotten to see, to a degree, some of the shifts in their relationship. And now they get to hear Bakugo finally apologize. And of course, the audience finally gets to hear it as well. And of course, it's, the first part is, I know I always look down on you, and because you were quirkless, and I was supposed to be better than you, but, you were actually the one that was above me. And, because because Izuku never actually looked down on Bakugo, and it took Bakugo so long to realize that. And by the time he did realize it, he couldn't just walk up to Izuku and apologize because Bakugo was emotionally constipated. And, and then of course we get this image where we see them as kids, and of course this whole time frame, Izuku's eyes in the beginning are just kind of completely whited out, and like he's not, he doesn't seem to be 100% recognizing what Bakugo is saying. But as they shift through the different age, as we see them age up, it shifts, and we see his eyes become more and more, aware. He's becoming less and less, autopilot. And like it's, it's also just like, I think it's also a combination of this moment where it's just like they have him stopped and like pinned. I mean, like, he could very easily just like jump away, but he doesn't, because he's just so exhausted at this point in time, and he just dealt with his friends, and now he has Bakugo face to face with him, and it's Bakugo finally apologizing to him. And even though Izuku has been through, he's like, I don't want to get my friends hurt, I don't want to see them get hurt and everything. He's finally to the point where it's just like, I'm just so tired, and I do want to hear what Kacchan wants to say, but I don't know if I should. And, he just kind of stands there and he hears it. And then we see them as kids, and he goes like, that I hated it, because I always thought that you were, looking down on me, but I couldn't bear it. And, so I just, I kept pushing you away. And then, we shifted them in middle school. And then it's, I kept you at arm's length, and, was mean to you. And, like, I kind of put that as, that's where people, a lot of the thing draw of like, oh, even if you don't ship them together, it's like Bakugo kind of pushing Izuku away because he doesn't want to see Izuku get hurt, because he's quirkless and he doesn't want to see his former friend or so get hurt. And then I kept you at arm's length, and but I kept losing that fight. And then of course, and then we shifted them at UA and their UA uniforms, and ever since we got here, nothing's gone the way that I thought it would. But the whole thing of like, nothing has gone to plan. I thought I would, it's like probably in his mind, like he's probably spent weeks, if not months, trying to figure out how to apologize to Izuku. Probably since sometime around like their second fighting ground beta. How am I going to apologize to you? How can I apologize to him? And he's probably spent so long trying to figure out how to do that. And now it's time. It's the moment where he has to do it. And, but things just, he's had to look inside himself, and I see your strengths and my weakness. And then of course we have, it's like, I didn't expect that, the whole thing is basically is like, I know it's this whole, it's like, I know I've taken so long to finally apologize to you, and I don't expect you to necessarily accept it moment, but I at least have to say this, because I have to say it for myself, and I have to say it because I need you to hear it. I'm sorry for everything, Izuku. Or, Izuku, I'm sorry for everything. And I think it's the first time in the entire series that we see Bakugo call Izuku, not Deku, not, Midoriya in whatever case that would have been in, not damn nerd, not, useless, not whatever that was. But the first time it's actually his actual name. And, so many other fanfics have had it be like, oh, it happened so much sooner than this. And, or like, it does happen, but it's not like a major part of the story because it's like it's in the future that like they're already friends by this point in time because Bakugo apologized. And, it is one of those moments where it's just like, I, you know, and of course, right after that is, of course, Izuku kind of, faints after he's like looks at his friends and his classmates, and he's just like, I can't believe I kept saying those horrible things about you not being able to keep up with me. And then, of course, he fades, and Bakugo is, of course, the one to catch him. He zooms forward and he catches Izuku so Izuku doesn't fall down. And of course, we don't know exactly what's going to happen now. Now that they've got Izuku back to UA. We'll see. It might be, by the next time Izuku, like, he might pass out again, and by the time he wakes up again, he might be in his room, and, Bakugo and Bakugo's parents and Inko might be there, and some of the other class might be there, and we might actually get to see the moment where Izuku, like, accepts Bakugo's apology, accepts, thank you for finally saying that, Kacchan. It means a lot to me. And, can we be real friends now? Type thing is kind of where I think that that's probably going to go. But, and we'll see where that goes for the relationship in the future. Because, like, so many people want it to be that, like, can I help you with something? Never mind. Because so many people want it to be that, like, oh, they start like their own agency, the Twin Stars or the Wonder Duo agency or whatever the variation of it is. Sometimes them on their own, sometimes with Shoto there, sometimes with some of the other kids there, the rest of some of the other class there. And like Izuku and Bakugo, yeah, they could team up quite well and become an amazing, hero duo and everything. The save to win and win to save, that mentality that goes along with them. And, we'll see what happens with that. We'll see where the next several chapters and the rest of the story arc, and then into whatever other story arcs we get in the future, stick around, and just see how that shifts in regards to their relationship in and of itself with, when, Izuku will definitely, accept it back. And then, they do get to be, is Baku going to continue to call him Deku? Even when he's not in his hero costume, because Deku is his hero name, so that would make sense for him to call him Deku when he's in his hero costume. But, when they're on duty, but is he going to call him Izuku when they're just, like, in class or hanging out at the dorms or, any of these other times, or, like, just when they're training? Or is he still going to call him Deku? Because it might be like Izuku says, yeah, you can call me Deku, that's fine, because, that's my hero name. And it may also be like, Bakugo just calls him Izuku anyway. And we get those moments in the story. So we'll see where that shifts again down the line. But, like, yeah, we get this progression through their relationship. And I love how Horikoshi drew that out. And I can tell you this, as I said at the beginning of the video. When they get to this in the anime, I can probably guarantee you that not only will I cry, but also probably a lot of other people are going to cry when we get to that moment in the anime. There's probably going to be a few other moments in the anime that have happened that are just going to be like me sitting there crying. Like, oh, I know what's going to happen, but still. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what else happens in regards to their relationship in the manga. As I stated before, these are shonen manga. There's not really a whole lot of romance in them. I don't think that Horikoshi is going to do, the two of them together. It might just be like they do become like the best friends that they had always been kind of meant to be best friends. So that's what I have for that. So I thank you very much for watching and listening to me ramble for about an hour or so. So yeah, again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. And I am going to say this now. If you have people in your past, to a degree, that were like real friends to you, maybe, that you had that type of a relationship as like Izuku and Bakugo had, and if you were the one that pushed the other person away, maybe you should see about trying to fix that friendship if it's worth it. Kids, adults, wherever in between, this is a lesson in friendship is also what their relationship is. So I thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye.
I always looked down on you 'cause you were quirkless. You were supposed to be beneath me, but I kept feeling like you were above me. I hated it. I couldn't bear to look at you. I couldn't accept the way you were. So I kept you at arm's length and was mean to you. I tried to act all superior by rejecting you, but I kept losing that fight. Since we got into UA, nothing's worked out how I thought it would. Instead, this past year forced me to understand your strength and my weakness. Now, I don't expect this to change a thing between us, but I gotta speak my truth. Izuku, I'm sorry for everything.